Hey everybody, Steve with TechniSpeak here today. Today we're going to talk about another basic troubleshooting tip, this time with your high-end control system from your home automation provider. So the scenario we're going to paint for you is you're using your universal remote that's part of your whole house home automation system. Everything seems to be hunky-dory. Then all of a sudden you get no response from any of your sources. Sources are things like Apple TV, DirecTV, Blu-ray, so on and so forth. No response. Pushing the buttons, nothing happening. Your input switching on your TV stops. Typically, if you have something like, let's say, a Control 4 system, you're going to see your input on your TV switch between the Control 4 on-screen display and all of your sources. That stops. And you've recently had a change to your network. Either you changed service providers, you had a blackout that lasted several hours and everything came back up online, or maybe you're fiddling around with the router yourself, or maybe your kids were, and all of a sudden you've lost complete control. That sounds like a cataclysmic failure that's going to lead to a very expensive service call, but it actually can be somewhat simple, and here's why. A lot of times when you have a complete failure like that, it's because your receiver can no longer be communicated with, otherwise known as an audio-video receiver, or AVR for short. This is really the main brain of your entire system. All of your audio sources come through here, all your video sources come through here, your speakers are all connected to this AVR, and your TV is connected to the AVR. So as you can see, when this fails, everything, or nothing rather, is going to get through to your TV, and you're not going to be able to see anything. So why does this happen? Well, in a lot of the more fancier control systems, we control these receivers over the internet. It's not going to have a little bug emitter on the front, something that looks like this on the front that's going to be flashing whenever it's going, because those can fall off, they can break over time, so on and so forth. But the internet's super slick, none of that on there. We get a lot more control of the audio-video receiver, but every once in a while, something happens. And what happens is the internet address that we are talking to with this receiver changes. The receiver says, well, I don't want this IP address anymore, I want something else. Or the router, the new router that you put in because you changed service provider, says, well, that's great that you want this address, but we're going to give you this one instead. And what happens is the control system says, we're going to talk to you on one address, the receiver's on another address, they ain't communicating, and nothing's happening. So what's an IP address, for those of you who don't know? So an IP address in your home is going to look something like this. It is a specific physical address on the network that your device is at. It's going to be one of two types. It's either going to be 192.168.something something, 4 numbers total, or 10.0.0 and a couple numbers over here. This is the standard for non-Mac routers, and this is the standard for Mac routers. It can really be any combination of these 4 numbers, but these two right here and these two right here are pretty much always going to be the same. So what happens is that address changed, and you need to find out what the new address is. And one little side note, if you see an address like this, that means that the particular device is actually not connected to the internet at all. That's kind of a standard address to let you know that. So you wouldn't know that. Why would you? Who would? We know it because we run a home automation company. But in any case, that is one exception that you will see, but rarely. So we have a new IP address. We don't know what it is. So how do we fix this issue? Well, most home automation companies will be able to fix this remotely if you can find out what this new address is. And how you would do that is you would go onto the receiver itself. You would find there's going to be a little menu button that's going to be right on the front. You're going to go underneath Menu, and then Settings, and then Network Settings. And it's going to have some little tab on there like Network Information or Network Setup or something else like that. You want to go to that area until you see an address like this. So let's say that this address is where the receiver was. This is 192.168.1.103. So let's say when we go through our menu settings, we find out that it is now 192.168.1.110. Okay, so that's our new address. So we say, okay, great. So we call up our home automation contractor and we say, hey, I've lost complete control of my system. And he says, well, I see your receiver was at 192.168.1.103. Where is it now? And they're like, okay, well, it's at 192.168.1.110. So all they have to do is type it in, assuming they can remote into your system, which most high-end control systems they can. Type that in, and boom, you have all your control back. So that's a real quick, easy fix for your system. A lot of home automation contractors, like ourselves, will also have network documentation forms where we have a list of all these things. So that would further assist you in trying to determine what is happening with your addresses, and then you get your control back and can enjoy the rest of your movie on Friday, Saturday night, or whenever you end up watching it. So just because it seems like a catastrophic failure that's going to lead to an expensive service call, it's actually a fairly simple fix, and it's really just because in the network environment this has changed. So hopefully you found this helpful. My name is Steve, and I run a home automation company from Los Angeles. Should you have any home automation needs, we'd be happy to help you in the area. And even if you're not in our area, please contact us if you have any questions at 855-832-4775, or find us on the web at www.technospeakco.com. Thanks a lot. Talk to you next time.